थी कि पर माय बैड लक उस दिन मेरा लेक्चर नहीं था। इस आत्मा का टॉकिंग इनिबिशन
नहीं सकता वो भूल गया
क्या बोलना। अच्छा
साथ में लगाए थे।
अच्छा तो ज्यादा मत बोलना।
बोल सकता हूँ
हाँ ज्यादा मत बोलना।
अरे बोल सकता हूँ
मत बोलो ना ज्यादा। रेस्ट लिया करो थोड़ा। और वैसे भी आज एकदम बेस्ट फ्रेंड के साथ बैठे हो तुम।
कौन बेस्ट फ्रेंड वो बेटा
कोई फ्रेंड नहीं है
मुझे
मैम 5 का लास्ट चैप्टर है ना?
नहीं लास्ट चैप्टर का अभी तो इम्प्रूवमेंट हम लोग स्टार्ट करेंगे आज। नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज का चैप्टर है नहीं है ना।
आप मूवी सीख रहे हैं
नहीं सीखने का ऑप्शन है तुम्हारा। सीखने का ऑप्शन
वो भी सीख रहे हैं।
मेरा ड्यूटी है पढ़ाना। तुम सीखोगे नहीं सीखोगे वो तुम्हारे लिए ऑप्शन है। क्वेश्चन है तो पढ़ना ही पड़ेगा ना। मुझे क्या है सीखना है।
ठीक है मैम।
हाँ
ठीक है मैम।
ये ज्यादा अच्छा वाला बच्चा। हाँ तो लास्ट जो which chapter we finished last class? Why do we forget? 5 minutes I'll take a revision oral, then we move on to the next chapter. The next chapter that we're going to do, are कौन absent है आज?
आज सही absent है
विहान। हाँ
आर्यन रॉय
वो तो आएगा
आएगा नेक्स्ट पीरियड है मैम वो नेक्स्ट पीरियड आ जाएगा।
अब हम मिस करेंगे नहीं तो।
फोन करेगा
कौन
आर्यन रॉय का मिस नहीं लेगा
जैसे वो आएगा क्लास में
और मैम सुमेश
तुम्हारे
सुमेश
जो भी है
सुमेश।
वो तो आता है एक चीज का चांद
पोदार
no he comes as चांद का name
मैम आपके एक लेक्चर में आएगा आपका जब से
अच्छा ऐसे तो वन हु सेट्स हियर
अरे नहीं वो डिप्रेशन में
जब
बैठा
बैठा जो
रहता है
लोग पास लगा के
ऐसा रहता है।
It doesn't
अब
care.
एक जो लड़का नया आया था वो कौन सा
विहान।
हाँ
He was sitting with Poddar.
हाँ,
वो दाढ़ी वाला
वो एक ही दिन आया था
नहीं वो आता है उसके एग्जाम चालू
अच्छा वो कौन सा स्कूल का है?
साइंस होता
तुम भी तो पोदार के हो
नहीं ना
नहीं
ये न्यू होराइजन का
न्यू होराइजन का
पता ही नहीं
तो तुम लोग रायन ना
हम रायन
हम ये लोग रायन
We are रायन।
ये लोग रायन रिया रायन
वी आर या इंग्लिश में
Shut up.
सच्ची इंटरनेशनल
तुम्हारा दूसरा दोस्त अभी सैनफोर्ड में जाके और नारायण बन गया है।
कौन?
आर्या
आप उसको भी पढ़ा लेते अभी कौन है
मेरी खुशी
रायन तो वही है उधर दूसरा
बहुत लोग हैं ना
और फिर रायन का ही ज्यादा
बहुत है अपने सुधार
जाना
है
है
से
उनको जाना है सैनफोर्ड
पढ़ा
बिगड़ जाएंगे उधर जाके और
क्या भी
चले जाएंगे तुम लोग कौन
इधर 4 मार्क मिले उधर 0 मिलेंगे।
मेरे को हैरान टॉपर है तुम लोग
तुम लोग का क्या मतलब है
नाइन्थ अगर ऐसे करोगे तो 10th में जाके कैसे चलेगा?
इमेज में अच्छा
ओह वाह वेरी गुड। तो ये एक ही स्कूल में हो क्या तुम लोग? नहीं अलग अलग। हाँ 80
और
इंग्लिश में इंग्लिश के बाद
मतलब
इंग्लिश के बाद
मुझे ही मैथ्स में अच्छे मार्क्स
कितने मिले?
वेरी गुड।
9.5 आउट ऑफ 10
अरे
अरे हाँ स्कूल के एग्जाम में
छापा है सर।
नहीं
मैम के
अरमान ऐसा नहीं करते।
मैम के बाजू में बैठ के पेपर लिखा
बाकी बचा होगा।
मैथ्स की
तो तुमको कितना मिला?
हाँ
तुमको कितना मिला?
इसको तो मिला ही नहीं। वो बोलते हैं कि आपका पेपर सब कर लिया आपने कुछ नहीं लिखा।
To be very frank, 9th standard syllabus is very easy. वैसे तो CBSE syllabus ही easy है।
इजी
ICSE में 2 दिन के लिए जाके देखो how much they are studying.
जो मैं पहले आईसीएसई में था
CBSE standard,
हाँ।
then why did you shift?
ओवरलोड
हाँ ज़्यादातर students they shift from ICSE to CBSE because the portion load is to study
almost 12 hours and they took out full marks. Here we studied
इसी तरह से स्टेट बोर्ड जाएगा।
हो जाता है। 10th में
मैम CBSE is the best because in ICSE we get overload
or overloaded. They are complex English, complex science.
साइंस का कॉम्प्लेक्स क्या
Not
बनेगा एमबीबीएस
that.
पढ़ाएंगे
Physics,
क्या
chemistry,
जैसे तो आईसीएसई 2-3 साल
Not that.
मैं
Not
8th
that.
तक ICSE
मैं भी
See.
7 तक तो आए हो
7th तक
Anyway,
Seventh
then
ICSE
your
का
base must be
foundation.
good. If you study in ICSE, so ऐसे compare मत करो कि बहुत पढ़ रहे हो. ऐसा नहीं है.
अगर बचपन से लाइन होता तो
You all are a bit
इंग्लिश ही
relaxed.
होता है
एक 10 CBSE, it's not that CBSE मतलब खराब है ICSE, not that, but both the boards if you compare,
आईसीएसई
students are working more harder, same age, same standard, but they are working much more
the
harder.
studies more harder, right?
Not harder, but more elaborate and
Difficult.
volume is more. Volume is more. ऐसा है. तुम अगर एक क्लास दूध पी के तुमको हो रहा है, they have to drink 5 glasses of milk ऐसा है. So that is what they have to take a lot of. वही duration of day तो उनके लिए भी same है. School hours भी लगभग वही same है. In fact, CBSE का ICSE school duration भी ज़्यादा है.
हाँ आईसीएसई का
So since you all are relaxed, at least you should try to put in more effort and full marks मिलने
स्टेट
चाहिए.
बोर्ड और ज्यादा रिलैक्स है
हाँ, state
शिफ्ट होने का सोच रहा है
हाँ अभी 10th में वो state board में जाएगा.
नहीं
स्टेट बोर्ड
By the time he is in the 12th standard, CBSE, ICSE, state सबका experience हो गया.
नहीं
वो नहीं बचा
नहीं, ऐसा मत बोलो. चलो, I said I'm going to take a 5 minutes oral. Let's see how much you all have understood that last chapter. Why do we fall ill? What did we study about that concept of the main part of the chapter is about diseases, no? The different types of diseases that we studied, microorganisms that we studied, the different types of organisms that we studied. What else?
the contamination
The major concepts of vectors, modes of transmission, antibiotics, vaccine. So ये है major part of the chapter. अच्छा, did you all inquire कि diversity है कि नहीं?
yeah ma'am it's the teacher is only confused
अरे वाह,
and
she
it is
is
not
there and she is not there now she's again telling something
not there. So for the time being, we are not starting diversity. ठीक है? क्योंकि last time I told you these are big chapters. अगर करना है तो I would start it. I will start. But if she is not sure, then I'm not starting now. If she's keeping it, half of the chapters or something like this, if the school.
she told like the half of the chapter we got but
In some schools, half of it.
exam
In some schools, they are keeping half of it. In some schools, they have just kept a little bit of it. So it depends. So you first confirm.
and we were told that it will come in exam and no question came.
So you study the entire chapter. That is, you learn. Knowledge never goes waste. What are vectors? One by one. Vectors.
इधर से
तुम्हारा टी-शर्ट का कलर मुझे बहुत पसंद आया.
टीचर निकाल
All these things don't do in the bio class. अरे तुम चिपकी रहे हो इधर आओ.
शुभ्रा एक्सप्लेनेशन ठीक है मेरा
इसका टी-शर्ट अच्छा नहीं लग रहा. Number one. बोलो what are vectors? एक लाइन basic concept बोलो. हिंदी में बोलो. इंग्लिश में बोलो भी. All of them. ये जो हमारे heroes हैं ना, ये heroes को फिर पता चला बायोलॉजी में मिला 0.
मैम ये बोल रहा है कि पूरा ये एग्जाम देने भी नहीं है
अरे तो पढ़ता तो हूँ मैं
नहीं है ऐसा
पर मैम पढ़ा मैंने घर पे तुम्हारी तरह नहीं है
क्या फायदा पढ़िए
क्या फायदा हो गया पर
अभी अगले टर्म में
नहीं है नहीं है
Excuse me, my sweethearts. Please go here for discussion.
नॉलेज
Ah.
अपनी लिंक करो वेस्ट नहीं जाए
I did not ask you to search that word in the body. I am asking you what did you understand by that word vector? जो मैंने अभी 4 लेक्चर में ये काफी कंप्लीट किया है. What did you understand? Vectors क्या है? एक एग्जाम में बताओ. Vectors क्या है? Do you ever consider him as your friend? 10%? तो फ्रेंड को you should uplift, help, not make him handicapped. तुम इतना चीटिंग करा रहे हो
उसका हेल्दी का डेफिनेशन दिखा रॉन्ग बोल रहा था कि रॉन्ग बोल तो इधर तो सही बिकॉज़ खुद सही नहीं मिल रहा उसको कहां से सोचते हो
I'm coming to you again with the next question. What are vectors? 5 minutes में I don't want to get stuck with one person like this. You should answer this one.
5 minutes.
5 minutes not only for you.
इंस्पेक्टर मतलब जो गंदगी से डिसीजेस अरे क्या हंस रहा है ये राक्षस जैसा
This is a classroom.
Ma'am, you don't say anything about them. I'm the quietest kid in this class.
I'm not telling.
तू देखेगा
I am telling them only. That's the reason I picked them only first.
Okay, person.
Just scared.
Never mind. If he is saying in Hindi also, at least he may, in science, language doesn't matter. He may put some 4 words of English to fill the answer. That I'm not bothered. But follow the section.
vector are the diseases
Either
sign in
vectors
English.
are
Sign in
vectors
names.
are the type of diseases
no.
no
I'll break your sets of teeth now that you have. Now that everybody is answering, nobody will laugh. Nobody will laugh. I see a person laughing, I'll just break your jaw.
vector borne diseases
No. Vectors matlab a type of an organism.
which is produced
जिसको मैं पूछूं उसी से मुझे आंसर चाहिए. हाँ बोलो.
unhygienic environment produced by unhygienic environment
Unhygienic environment. But what are vectors? लिखना क्या है? What should you understand? Vectors. Is it a disease? No. Is it an environmental condition we are talking about? No. This is an organism. जो disease causing organism को carry कर सके. It is something like your vehicle. Your vehicle can carry you from home to school, school to UT. So that vehicle is a vector. And mosquito can carry a disease causing germ from a patient to a healthy person. Vector. Housefly can carry the bacteria from the garbage to your food. Vector. Which type of body cells are involved by infection, or which type of body cells are involved?
Blood cells.
Body cells. You decide. Blood cells or क्या बोलना है? Which type of body cells are involved during infection by HIV?
The red blood cell as they travel
No.
blood
Think.
throughout our body.
Ma'am, what is
I said जिससे मैं पूछ रही हूँ, only with that person I want the answer and clarification.
I am asking the question.
I answer.
Bacteria cells.
No. समझने की कोशिश करो. What I'm asking you is, name the type of body cells which are affected during AIDS. Excuse me. Which type of body cells are affected during AIDS?
You told HIV.
So AIDS means
HIV.
infection by HIV. HIV is a virus. So HIV जब body में जाता है, which type of body cells does it affect? Tissue specific manifestation में we have studied all these things. Which type of body cells are affected? I'll come to you again. Which type of body cells are affected during HIV infection?
WBC.
WBCs. And which type of body cells are affected if I talk about tuberculosis?
Ma'am, what is that?
Tuberculosis is a disease which is associated with coughing and breathlessness, high temperature, fever. Which part of the body did we learn is getting affected? Lungs. This side. I'll come to you again. During the process of vaccination, when we want to take a vaccine, should we take in the live organism or the dead organism inside our body?
The live organism.
The live organism. If the live organism enters our body, are we supposed to suffer from symptoms or not? We will. Then when we take vaccine, do we suffer from the symptoms of the disease?
After the tests, like
No, I have taken the vaccine for COVID. So did I suffer from the symptoms of COVID?
no, dead.
No, dead. ये concept याद रखो. Whenever we are talking
Ma'am,
about
but we can take live organisms, but we
no, live also does not mean that it is a live form which can create symptom in your body. Live meaning they are partially treated either by chemicals or by heat. So as it is, these organisms which are not even fully, now see there are various categories of vaccines. Vaccines made of fully dead organisms, partially dead organisms, that is what we are talking about as living but treated. fully killed, there may be suspensions, there may be secretions, various different types. So the most commonly used vaccines are the vaccines of killed organ, completely dead organisms, dead and weakened or live and weakened. So majorly dead and weakened ही दिया जाता है. When they enter the body, symptoms नहीं होता. But the vaccines that we take allow the production of what inside our body? We have taken the dead organism inside our body. Now, which type of or what has started getting formed in our body by taking the vaccine? We have taken the vaccine, something starts getting formed in our body, and that's the reason we get immune.
Antibodies.
Very good. Antibodies. Yaad rakho. Antibodies. So when we are taking or when the live germs enter the body of the same disease, does antibodies get formed at that time?
Yes. I'm sorry.
I have taken the vaccine. Antibodies got formed.
Yes, ma'am.
But if at all the live germ would have entered, would the antibodies be formed? Yes. I try to understand what I'm speaking. I told you the other day also. A person takes vaccine for, say, suppose pneumonia, vaccine for tuberculosis. A person takes vaccine for tuberculosis. What is he taking inside his body? Dead germs. So dead germs जब body के अंदर जा रहा है, which type of cells it is activating? WBC. So WBC in return क्या कर रहा है? The WBC starts producing antibodies in the blood. ये antibodies, these are not excretory substances at all. ये कभी भी excretion के साथ और excretory substance के साथ body के साथ कभी release नहीं होता है. So that's the reason they remain in the blood for long periods of time. For years they may be there in our blood. So that's the reason within this period when the live germ enters, we don't suffer from the disease. But if without taking the vaccine, before taking the vaccine, the person did not take the vaccine for tuberculosis yet, but the bacteria of tuberculosis, live bacteria of tuberculosis has entered his body. Now is he suffering from symptoms? Yes. But after suffering from those 2-3 months, he suffered. Vigorously he suffered from tuberculosis. बहुत सारे symptoms हुए. And after 2-3 months, he's perfectly fine. After 6 months again, if the tuberculosis germ enters his body, will he suffer? No, because already antibody बन चुका है. Then which is a better method? Suffer करके antibody बनाना कि dead germ या vaccine लेके symptoms को avoid करके immunity पाना चाहिए. Vaccine ले लो. So that's the reason we are talking about taking vaccines for a large number of diseases nowadays. So remember the concept of vaccine. Which is the first antibiotic that was discovered? First antibiotic कौन सा था? What did we study? First antibiotic कौन सा था? What was the name of that antibiotic? First का नाम बताओ. Name the first antibiotic that was discovered in the year 1929 by a very famous biologist. I had written this, and that topic I had taken 2 days. The next day also I took that topic anyway.
The fungal name was penicillium and the antibiotic name was penicillin. Penicillin.
By Alexander Fleming, जब ये textbook पढ़ोगे, this is an important to be studied. Penicillin. What type of a disease is cholera, bacteria or viral? Cholera. ये भी याद रखना है. Major diseases you may take in that table there. Tuberculosis है, diarrhea है, cholera है, then influenza है. That's not there in your syllabus at all. Malaria है. So these are common diseases.
And if vaccines are made up of dead organisms, so why does it take so much time to make a vaccine?
It takes dead organisms. It's how to get the dead organism. It is not only that when you are talking about preparing a vaccine, you just take the patient's blood and then make vaccine. It's very, very difficult. Why it is difficult is because number one, these different type of organisms that we are talking about, the bacteria and the virus, more preferably the virus, they constantly keep on changing their DNA. DNA change matlab type of protein change. Matlab something like your mother is buying a t-shirt for you and then you are growing. तो ये 2 महीने में छोटा हो जा रहा है. Again she buys another t-shirt for you and you are constantly growing. तो क्या हो रहा है? She is not able to gather some 5 t-shirts also for you because she buys 2 and then you are growing tall. Or she buys another 2, you are growing fat. So the t-shirts are not fitting you at all because we are growing. We are growing by breadth, we are growing by height. So that is what is happening. The scientists, by the time they start gathering knowledge about making proteins means what? When we are talking about what type of protein, the dead Germany tenders, what type of protein that Cbse should provide should give us immunity. So that is the concept, if I have to make it very simple. So now, jab tak scientists come to that concept, which is understood that the DNA of that organism has changed. Now they are going to make a different protein. So every time it's changing. It's not a constant thing that is there. And the biologists are very sure, the scientists are very sure कि इसके जैसे structure ऐसा करना. So it's difficult. And then also from where to get the dead organism? It has to be from the serum. Serum means from the blood sample of the patients only. From the patients, the blood sample has to be collected. उसमें से सारे cells निकालना पड़ता है. The process is very typical. खाली वो plasma and the protein in the plasma, that only has to be filtered out. And that part is very difficult. Filtering out, if I just tell you, I give you in a test tube half ml of blood, उसमें से तुम खाली plasma निकालो, that part itself in the laboratory is so difficult. And identification of the proteins, etc., just like the t-shirt I told you. I buy a pair of shoes and every time my feet is becoming bigger and broader, and so I'm not able to, I buy something and एक change हो जा रहा है, I'm not able to fit it. I'm buying the shoe, but some change is happening to my feet. I'm not able to fit that shoe in my feet. ऐसा हो जाता है. That is what the concept is. Next is what I told you, cholera. What type of a disease it is? Bacterial or viral?
Bacterial.
Viral. It's a viral disease. Malaria. What type of a disease it is? Arman, you have not still given me any answer. Malaria. What type of a disease it is? I give you the option. बैक्टीरियल है, वायरल है या प्रोटोजोअन है? प्रोटोजोअन.
वायरल नहीं है.
So now when we are talking about what are the type of organisms you have studied, can you name one fungal disease? एक ही है हमारे पोर्शन में, एक ही है. What is the name of that fungal disease? चलो not to worry, I'll come back again. Last one more round I'll take. Let's see how many. Fungal disease एक बताओ. There are many, but in your portion you have studied only one. That table I was showing you repeatedly when I explained. Obviously this one. Fungal disease याद है? Ringworm, fungal disease, ringworm it is. Then it doesn't sound like a disease. No, ringworm sounds like an organism, but it's a disease. Ringworm is a type of a disease that people suffer from. Breeding places, or when we are talking about modes of transmission, from that part, modes of transmission. Breeding places of different type of organisms are generally found where, in what type of environmental conditions. Breeding places could be found where? Breeding places of different type of insects. So in order, if I put my question the other way, in order to avoid breeding places, what are some of the steps that we should take care of?
We should the collected water should
Stagnation of water should not be allowed. What else? If at all there is stagnation of water, then what should we do? Spray?
Mosquito repellents
Mosquito repellents.
to avoid the growth of malaria.
Spray insecticides or some kerosene oil like that. And mosquito repellents on your body. Mosquito repellents we would use in our own house, homes, body like that. No? Organ and tissue specific manifestation, that also, this type also question asked. Name the type of tissue, name the type of organ affected by malaria, name the type of cells affected by AIDS, which type of tissue is affected during tuberculosis, pneumonia. So that way, this is how you should understand the questions. Next is, what was the full form of AIDS, I said? AIDS full form is what?
Ma'am,
तुम्हारा स्माइल अच्छा है, पर तुम्हारा स्माइल से कुछ काम नहीं बनने वाला एग्जाम।
Sorry.
AIDS का full form?
AIDS.
Acquired immunodeficiency syndrome.
Serious बोलो, थोड़ा serious बोलो। HIV का full form? बोली जो उसने बताया था, एक word का ही difference है खाली, बताओ याद करो।
तो वो जो उसको बोला same.
तो उसने जो बोला वो same है, तो वो एक word तो बोलो।
HIV. तो तूने बोला
Acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. याद रहेगा।
याद रह गया ना, एक बार तुमने पढ़ा तुमको याद है, तो तुम अगर दिन में आधा घंटा भी पढ़ोगे तो तुमको याद रहेगा। तो क्वेश्चन
Acquired immunodeficiency syndrome.
second one immune.
HIV क्या है फुल फॉर्म बताओ? नेता मुझे सेंड टू मीना।
अरे माँ
HIV फुल फॉर्म क्या है?
immune
अरे
second.
वाह,
Immuno virus second and third word. So H stands for what?
हम कौन है?
Human. Human.
हाँ, एक और word है।
Human.
उसके अंदर क्या immunodeficiency virus.
मैंने भी तो वही बोला human.
Human word ही बोला।
हाँ तो human आपने तो H word क्या है? Human.
I did not say H word क्या है। Don't put words into my mouth. You said
आपने कहा H word क्या है? मैंने कहा
human immunodeficiency virus. Read the chapter.
Yes.
Next is we move on to
आधा घंटा हो गया।
Now we'll move on to the next chapter, improvement in food resources. Let us start discussing that, improvement in food resources. The first part of the chapter, if you see, the first part of the chapter, when we are talking about improvement in food resources, the first topic is nutrients. Okay, first topic is when we are looking into some few definitions, the common definitions. Improvement. We are starting with improvement. Now, certain parts of this chapter will speed up because otherwise this chapter is too lengthy. Questions भी बहुत सारे आते हैं from here. Improvement in food resources. The first is we just try to understand certain words like food. What is the meaning of the word food? The sources of food, functions of food. Now let us just try to understand sources. What are some of the common sources of food? And next is functions of food. Sources of food, functions of food. Now, first of all, if I talk about the word food, what do you understand? Different type of food sources. Any type of external substance that we have to consume or take in, from where we may get some essential substances for our growth and maintenance. So that is what we are talking about as food. Now, tell me, when I'm talking about, or can you give me one example of food?
Mango.
Mango.
Mango fruit, I'm sorry.
I did not ask you fruit or crop or vegetable. I said just food.
Sizzler.
Huh? Sizzler.
And dal chawal.
Dal chawal. Same like this. In another batch, I was asking vada pav. Food.
Misal pav. Samosa pav.
Now, when we are talking about this, so this is food, no? But now, when we are talking about food, we always understand why should we consume food? Because our body requires various different type of chemical substances for our growth and maintenance. And all these type of chemical substances which our body needs are not produced by our body itself. Some of them our body can produce, most of them our body cannot, because we belong to what group of organisms, autotrophic or heterotrophic? Heterotrophic. Arey wow, we are autotrophic. Gosh, autotrophic बोलते हैं. So now when we are talking, Arman, this was shocking. Autotrophic.
नहीं पर
When we are talking about autotrophic, what is the meaning of autotrophic?
That made them
They can organisms that can make their own food. Plants, no?
we have not enough food.
All mothers are autotrophic. Autotrophic does now. Did you ever see the plants hopping and jumping to go for shopping? The fruits and the vegetables like the mothers. No. We can cook food, but we cannot produce food. That's why I said, अगर हम autotrophic बोलते तो कितना अच्छा होता हम mothers के लिए. So now when we are talking about that cooking food and giving serving food, that tension ही नहीं रहता. No? All mothers in this world would have been so happy. So when we are talking about autotrophic, heterotrophic, basic concept क्या है? Organisms which have got special proteins, enzymes that they can satisfy all the nutrients. So that's what I'm saying. Why should we drink milk? Why should we take dal, chawal and roti? Why should we take all the different type of vegetables, fruits, etc.? क्योंकि इनमें से जो chemical substances हमारे body में चाहिए, our body cannot prepare. If our body would have been able to prepare, like the plants can prepare any type of a nutrient that is necessary for their growth and maintenance.
And if any foreign particle enters our body, WBCs attack them. So why doesn't WBCs attack our food?
No, WBCs will not attack our food because whenever a microbe is entering our body, it starts going and affecting the cells and destroying the cells, and in that process, so many different type of proteins are disturbed in our body. If a guest comes to your house, very honestly, that guest sits down in your hall and he does not bother you, no disturbance. Would you like to throw him out of the house? No, he's not creating any problem for you. No? But the moment somebody comes into your house and captures your bedroom and kitchen and takes up your all essential things and all your favorite things, you would love to drag him and throw him out of the house. No? So exactly like that. So when we are talking about any type of an organism, now the food, chemical substances, but the moment they are entering our body, are they disturbing any type of a cell? Are they disturbing any type of a protein that our body has or produces? Nothing. So in that case, the WBC has no problem with that. But the moment a microbe enters, the microbe is very vigorously trying to destroy some of the other type of cell, disturb some of the other type of proteins in our body. So now the WBC arises. Okay, what's happening in my body? And the WBC gets into action. So that is what we understand. Now, back to this point again. I was saying that the body produces or the food produces variety of chemical substances, and these chemical substances that is necessary for our growth, maintenance. What are these chemical substances known as? These chemical substances are known as nutrients. So, especially when I talk about ourselves, nutrients, we understand that the nutrients that our body requires so many. Now, can you name nutrients that are required by our body? We understand the carbohydrates, proteins, fats, minerals, vitamins. Minerals, that is. So now that I'm talking about the minerals and vitamins, so many. Does the plant also require minerals and vitamins? But I'm saying that the plants are autotrophic. I'm saying that the plants are autotrophic. It can make its own food. Yes, the plants are autotrophic. It can make its own food. But still, when we have to grow plants much faster than they grow normally, we have to give them additional nutrients. We have to give them additional nutrients. No, so something like when we are talking about, say suppose now the children who are involved, or say suppose if I talk about the sports person, you all are 14, 15 years old, 13, 14. There are so many sports person by this age group, their growth is almost double than you. And they must have already reached. They had already participated so many different type of competitions, won so many competitions. So now the growth and the vigor is much more than you. So when I talk about the growth and vigor much more than you, so do you understand that they also must be consuming the same amount of food like you? Obviously not. They must be exercising also more than you. They must be consuming food also more than you. So same like that. I talk about the crops, the plants. The crops and the plants. Now these crops and plants, what are they doing? These crops and plants, they are constantly growing. But if you have to speed up the process of growth, we have to give them additional nutrients. So that's the reason we are talking about nutrients. You may think that plants can make their own nutrients, but to provide them nutrients to process or to bring about the process of growth much faster. Sources of food. Now, if I have to talk about what are the two different sources on which we depend on food, both plants and animals. Plants and animals. You don't like animals. Now, plants and animals. So when we are talking about plants and animals, can you give me one example of plant food?
Plant
Tomato. Potato.
All fruits.
Huh? Fruits, correct. Or animal food? Meat.
Chicken.
अरे meat
Egg. Meat अलग होता है, chicken अलग होता है. They are all
milk.
Acha. And milk. Or fish. Animal food when I talk about, yes.
crab.
The different type of animal forms, or we talk about something like the eggs and all, the milk. This is also animal food. No? So, what are the two most common sources of food that you have to understand? The two most common sources of food.
Plants
The two different type of sources of food are plants and animals, and so many examples that you can write. What are the primary sources of food? Plants and animals. What are some of the functions? Can you think of 5 functions of the food that we take? Come on, write at least 3. Functions of food. You should be understanding what to or why do you. That is common thing that every day your parents also must be telling you. Why should you take food? Why should you take? Write specific point. एक ही point चार
Water to stay hydrated.
हाँ हाँ
Like water to stay hydrated. Like that.
हाँ, water to stay hydrated. Okay, no.
Ma'am, is water type of food?
Don't write water. Water is not a. Water is an essential nutrient, but now that I'm talking about food as a whole, why should we take in food? What are some of the water comes under food, but water keeps us hydrated. That is not a very first point that you will write.
If we don't have water, we cannot survive.
When you are writing from an exam point of view, this you will not write as the first point. Then all of us we know that we should be drinking 3 liters of water, 4 liters of water a day, but that is not the first point that you will write. Why should we take in food? Why should we take in quality food? Number 1, for growth and maintenance of the body. So the first point always you should write. Why should we take in food?
To balance our vitamins, minerals, protein, fat.
No, that's not a point. You are writing the functions. I want you to write down functions of food.
To get
Why do we
energy.
take in
Energy.
food? To get energy. Yes.
To get nutrients.
No, to get energy, to get nutrients, but nutrients do what? That is what you will write in the function. Your answer should be smartly written. Answer should be proper when you write. So the first point, what are you going to write on? The first point you are going to write on growth and maintenance of the body tissues. What is the second point you are going to write on? Provides us with energy. What else you will write?
For development.
To provide immunity. There are a whole lot of fruits and vegetables that we consume so that we become strong from inside. Immunity means what? Unless and until we are not consuming quality food, the type of the blood cells are not adequate in our body. A person you get to see in your classroom where every month 1 or 2 days or 3 or 4 days that person is absent, suffering from cold, cough, influenza, etc., etc., etc. So what do you understand? But you are never absent in the school. So what are you understanding? You are understanding that that person has got a weak immunity. Meaning what? The number of WBCs, RBCs are much lesser as in comparison. Okay. So that is the meaning of weak immunity. और 2 point क्या लिखेंगे? Functions which is complete with the next today. और क्या functions लिख सकते हैं? Food. What should we take in food? Repair. Health. ठीक है. Specific points क्या लिखना है? For the repair of our body. और क्या?
Health.
For good health.
Health immunity में ही आ जाएगा. When we are talking about immunity, that is the meaning of we are trying to
survive.
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 Yes.
Water पे भी survive कर.
हाँ, so वैसे तो हर एक type of nutrient you need for survival, for growth. So what are some of the most common points that you write? Protection from diseases, that is what you are talking about as immunity. Repair, what you are talking?
Hunger.
Repair. No, this is not
Case
what.
of any injuries.
Huh?
That is like a well that is.
So that will come under the concept of repair. When you write repair, it's the same thing. Repair is the same thing. And what can be the other function? What is the other function that you write about food? So many functions. Also,
To speed the growth.
to speed up the process of growth. And next is we also talk about to maintain, food also helps to maintain the body temperature, which is again very much necessary to maintain the body temperature for the production of enzymes, production of various enzymes and proteins. Production of various enzymes and proteins. उसके लिए भी nutrients जरूरी है. Otherwise, we will always suffer from some of the other type of nutrients. We always suffer from some of the other type of proteins, hormones, and कुछ ना कुछ deficiency diseases हमें होता है. After the break, we'll take up the next part of the chapter. So this is just an introduction. Why? What is the meaning of the word nutrient? Again, when you will on nutrient, you have to understand macronutrient, micronutrient, and examples. Okay? Take a break. 5 minutes.
Using phone in class, bad boy.
भैया
जब भैया निकाल लो